All right, so let's go ahead and start practicing some irregular shapes, taking what we know about circles and applying them to some more unusual shapes. So this first one's not too difficult, but let's go ahead and give it a try. So it says, using the figure below, find the area of the circle. Really important to pay attention whether it says area or circumference, because that depends on what equation we use. So if you look, since it says area, we want area equals pi r squared. And so when we look at our shape, they give us this side length of the square, but if you look, it is the same as if we had our diameter of the circle. So 10 centimeters is really representing our diameter. But since we need radius for our area formula, we know we have to divide that by 2, so our radius is going to be 5. Okay, so we're going to still use that 3.14 for pi, so let's just go ahead and substitute in what we've got, and you can follow along in your notes whether you made a copy of them or you are printing them off and using them like this, your choice. And you can do these all at the same time, or you can do them in small chunks. Like I know that 5 squared is going to be 25, so if you want to write that as your second step, you can. Or if you want to just type it all out in your calculator, that's fine too. You can do it either way. So go ahead and take a moment to multiply that in your calculator if you'd like. If you want to pause, you can do so. But when you do that, you should end up with 78.5, and then we want centimeters squared because we're measured in centimeters and it's area, so we want squared, and that looks like a comma, but it's supposed to be a decimal. There we go. Okay, so 78.5. Let's take a look at another one. So we've got a semicircle here, and they want us to find both the circumference and the area. So let's start with our circumference, and then we will go on, there we go, and we'll go on to area. Okay, so with circumference, and we'll deal with the semicircle part in a second, so you can tell it's only half of the circle. We'll deal with that at the end, but let's focus on circumference. So we got C equals, and since they give us the diameter, we're going to go ahead and use that pi times diameter rather than the pi times 2r. So again, using 3.14 for pi, and we're going to multiply it by the diameter, which is 12. So we're just going to find that circumference like we normally would. So when I do that, and again, you can use a calculator to multiply that out, I end up with 37.68. However, because we are finding the circumference of the semicircle, not the entire thing, right? This 37.68 is if we had the whole circle like that. Well, we only have half of it, so we only need to take half of that number, so we're going to divide by 2, okay? And when you do that, you end up with 18.84. Now, you might stop and be like, oh, that's my answer. But really, that only covers remember, the circumference is the outside of the circle, so that really only represents this part. Well, with the semicircle, we also have this line going across, which they tell us is that 12 that we used for the diameter. So we need to just add that part in. We're adding because it's just finding the perimeter. So we're just adding that extra measurement in. We've already done this part, the curve. Now we just need to add in that 12. And when we do that, we end up with our 30.84. And I'm going to write it in our blank over here. So 30.84, and it was measured in centimeters, and since it's circumference, we just write it as centimeters. Let me go ahead and erase my work here. Give me a moment to do that. Okay, get it all out of the way, because now we're going to do area, and I'm going to erase this so we don't get confused about what our work is. Just give me a moment to do that. Sorry it's taking me so long. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and do area. This one's actually not even going to be quite as difficult. Because all we need to do is find our area like we normally would, and then just divide it by 2, okay? So we want the radius for this one, so we need to take 12 divided by 2, so we get 6. So we want 3.14 times 6 squared, okay? And so again, if you want to go ahead and do that 6 squared part to get 36, you can, or if you want to type it all in your calculator, that's fine too. Sorry, my handwriting is getting a little funky here. But when you multiply that, you end up with 113.04, but we need a semicircle, so we have to divide that by 2, and when you do that, you end up with 56.52, and then we want centimeters squared because this one was area. Now, if you need to rewind and go back and take a look, or you want to pause, try this on your own, and then double check you got it with me. You're more than welcome to do that. I know I'm kind of going through this quickly because I already have them calculated out, but if you want to try these on your own, feel free to do that. We got one more to take a look at. This is an irregular shape. It kind of looks like a rocket though, but it's just a random irregular shape, and they want us to find the area of it. That's all. So what I like to do with these sorts of shapes is look for those shapes within the shape. And I like to section those out because I know I'm going to have to add those together just like we've done with irregular shapes before. So I noticed that there is a rectangle. I'm just going to abbreviate it. I noticed there's a triangle. And then there is a semicircle, so I'm just going to write it like that, like S-circ for semicircle. However you want to abbreviate it, that is up to you. But I like to start with the easiest ones, and rectangle is just going to be length times width, or you can think of it as base times height, either one. And so when I look at the rectangle, I know it's got 7 for one side and 6 for the other. So I'm just going to do 7 times 6, and I know that's 42. So that part's done. Real simple. Now let's try the triangle. Still fairly simple, but remember with triangles, you have to divide by 2 because they are only half of a quadrilateral. So with this one, we're taking base times height, which is the 3 times 4, but then I have to divide that by 2, okay? And I'm just getting that right here from these numbers. If you look at the triangle, the 3 and the 4. And so we know that 3 times 4 is 12, divided by 2, we end up with 6. Okay, done, perfect. Now we need to find the area of our semicircle. Okay, and we're finding area, not circumference, so this line here is not going to be a problem. I'm just using it to help me with that diameter. So I know with semicircles, again, remember we're doing pi times r squared. So I need to find the radius. Well, the diameter is going to be the same as our diameter with the, with our width of the rectangle, which is 6. So if that's the diameter, the radius is going to be 3. So I want 3.14 times 3 squared. Okay. And then we have 9 when we do that 3 squared. So I got 3.14 times 9. Okay. And when I do that, I end up with, 28.26. But remember, it's a semicircle. That's why we labeled it with this S, semicircle. So I only need half of that. So we're going to have to divide that by 2 to get 14.13. Okay, and now our final step. So we found the area of each individual shape. We've got 42 for our rectangle, 6 for our triangle, 14.13 for our semicircle. So we just need to add those together. Just add them all up. So we're taking that 42 plus 6 plus 14.13. And when you add all that together, we end up with 62.13. And please don't forget your label. We measured in feet, but we're finding area, so it should be feet squared. Okay? And that's our final answer. Whew, that was a lot of pieces, but you stuck with it and you got it. So I know that this was a lot. Feel free to rewind, go back, take a look at something, try it with the calculator yourself, pause and see if you can do it with the video. But you have one practice problem I want you to try, and then you're going to post your answer and work. Please remember to put the work. You don't have to give me every little detail, but just tell me, like, what did you multiply by? Did you have to add anything together? Just show that kind of stuff. But post the work and answer to that practice problem on Seesaw, please. Good luck. You've got it. Ask questions if needed.